Hey fellow music fans, welcome back to Psychology of Rock. If you're new to the channel, my name's Nina, and today we are breaking down one of my favorite songs of all time, Freewill by Rush, which is the second track off the brilliant album Permanent Waves that came out in 1980. Now, I think the actual lyrics, which were of course written by the amazing Neil Peart, are pretty straightforward in what they are trying to convey, but they are just so perfectly crafted and so incredibly profound that I feel that they are really deserving of deeper reflection, which is exactly what we're going to be doing today. So in this video, I want to talk about some of the philosophical and psychological themes in the song and just how perfectly they are illustrated here. So let's go ahead and dive in, but as always, I want to give the quick reminder that this is just my own personal analysis. I am in no way attempting to speak for the band, and as with any work of art, there can be multiple valid meanings and interpretations, including whatever the song means to us personally. So with all of that being said, let's take a deeper look into free will. Now, if I had to sum up the central theme of the song, I would say it's pretty in line with the title. But I would actually expand it into free will versus determinism. I don't really see it as exploring the debate between the two philosophies or really preaching about free will as the ultimate philosophical ideal. I see it more as simply challenging us to take ownership of our lives and to face the consequences, good or bad, of the choices that we make. But still, to fully understand the song, I do think we have to talk about the fundamental differences between these philosophies. So let's start there. Now, free will, of course, is basically the belief that we have the ability to make our own decisions without being controlled by outside forces or predetermined factors. In other words, not only do we have full control over our actions, we are also personally and morally responsible for them. Determinism, on the other hand, is the idea that all events, including human actions, are determined by preceding events or natural laws. And of course, if this is our belief system, we're going to feel like free will is just an illusion and that nothing's really our fault. I think the opening lines of the song strongly reflect this viewpoint. It says, "There are those who think that life has nothing left to chance, with a host of holy horrors to direct our aimless dance. A planet of playthings, we dance on the strings of powers we cannot perceive. The stars aren't aligned or the gods are malign. Blame is better to give than receive." These lines suggest that our actions and really our whole lives are being manipulated by external, uncontrollable forces that leave us powerless to be able to shape our own destiny. I think the line, "we dance on the strings of powers we cannot perceive," definitely reinforces this idea that we are merely puppets to these unseen forces. And the later line, "all preordained, a prisoner in chains, a victim of venomous fate," further emphasizes this lack of control. It's basically saying that some people live their entire lives believing that horrible things are simply destined to happen to them and that there's nothing they can do about it. So I think the difference between these viewpoints does not lie in whether or not we believe that hardships will occur, but in whether we believe we have the agency to make choices that can influence our circumstances, or if we are merely victims of a predetermined fate. If we believe in free will, we also believe in our personal agency and responsibility. But if we believe in determinism, there's really no room for personal freedom, so personal responsibility becomes irrelevant to us. And obviously, and unfortunately, having this viewpoint can have a very negative effect on our lives and a very negative effect on the lives of others because of the things that we end up doing or failing to do because of our lack of responsibility. And I think the lines in the song that best embody this theme are actually my favorite lines in the song that say, "You can choose a ready guide in some celestial voice. If you choose not to decide, you still have made a choice." I think this is the ultimate argument against determinism. He's reminding us that inaction still carries consequences, whether it's intentional or not, that not making a decision is in fact a decision. In reality, we're still shaping our lives when we're trying to avoid making choices or taking action. There's no real way to escape responsibility. So I think clearly this was the main message that Neil was trying to get across. I think we can all agree on that. But I also think there are several other equally profound themes that we can find in free will. And the first of those themes is existentialism. Now, existentialism is another philosophy that focuses on individual freedom and choice, but also the search for meaning in an otherwise indifferent or even absurd universe. It basically asserts that life has no inherent purpose and that it's up to each person to create their own meaning through the choices that they make. I think this perspective often emphasizes the burden of freedom in that it acknowledges being alone in the responsibility to shape our own life is both liberating and overwhelming, especially in a universe that can seem indifferent to our existence. I think we can see this concept in the lines, "There are those who think they were dealt a losing hand. The cards were stacked against them. They weren't born in lotus land." I think this part of the song is saying that yes, sometimes life is filled with suffering and uncertainty and seemingly unfair situations, but we can't be like the people who simply feel like it's their fate. We still have to rise to the occasion. We have to face these challenges and still try to find meaning in our lives. I also think this section hits on the idea that while we cannot control everything that happens to us, that we do still have the power to choose how we respond to these situations and what significance we assign to them, which I think is really a very powerful message. Now, another theme that I see and love in free will is the role of choice in defining our identity and personal narrative. So this theme aligns with the idea that the choices we make not only shape the course of our lives, but also the type of people that we actually become. I think this is captured perfectly in the lines, "You can choose from phantom fears and kindness that can kill. I will choose a path that's clear. I will choose free will." I think this whole section is incredibly profound, but I particularly love the phrase phantom fears because it suggests that so many of our struggles and our anxieties are self-created and often based on imagined scenarios rather than reality, which is something that I can definitely relate to. But here, the speaker chooses to rise above these fears by selecting a path that reflects their autonomy and their commitment to free will. So this choice is not just about the actions they take, but also about how they choose to define themselves in relation to the world around them. I think the declaration, "I will choose free will," is extremely significant because it reflects an active decision to embrace responsibility and to assert agency over their own life. It's not just a passive acceptance of fate or circumstance. It is an empowered stance where they are claiming control over their future. Psychologically, this resonates with the idea of self-determination. This is when our sense of identity and well-being is actually tied to our ability to make decisions and to take responsibility for them. I think in essence, free will is reminding us that our choices define who we are, not just by the actions themselves, but by the very act of choosing itself. And that by asserting our freedom to choose, we also shape our personal narrative and ultimately decide the meaning and direction of our lives. What an incredibly powerful song. Neil Peart was absolutely my favorite lyricist of all time, but I think this song in particular showcases his unparalleled ability to be able to combine these philosophical and psychological ideas into these incredibly profound and thought-provoking lyrics. It is genuinely a masterpiece both lyrically and musically. So those are my thoughts on free will, but as always, I would love to hear yours, so don't forget to leave them in the comments. I want to thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't. I hope you enjoyed today's analysis, and I will see you in the next video.